Hi everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's episode, it's time for some winter wiring. Welcome to Bonsai Acres. Welcome everyone inside the plant room on a bitterly cold Monday. It is the 17th of February. President's Day. Had a live stream earlier today, but I want to work on these two trees. I'm going to do some wiring. So winter wiring is a good time to wire a lot of conifer trees because, we're in the cold frame, they're sitting kind of dormant. The negative side, I think, is that if I cracked these real bad and there was damage here, it wouldn't have the nice warm growing conditions to heal those wounds. But I don't think I will. I hope I don't crack these and force them too hard, but they'll be in the cold frame, or the PSGF rather, and they'll be ready to heal up here soon. So first up, we're gonna start with a tree that I received in Canada from one of the Canadians up there in the bonsai zone. And now I'm completely spacing out on his name. I wanna say Nick, or no, it's not Nick. I'm gonna have to double check with Mr. Nigel Saunders on who was all there. And he was gracious enough to give me this Shimpako Juniper. And it's got a nice long whip on here. There's a little movement already on here, but let's go ahead and give it a spin for you here. You can see this big long whip here. What are we gonna do with that? And that's kind of the back at the moment, just because you can't see the trunk through there. And there we go, we've come full circle. So we've got a branch down here that's really pretty low. There we go, we don't need that low one down there. There's a couple other ones on here, but I just don't know what I'm gonna do with this tree. So I don't wanna mess with this too much except for get this dead stuff out. And then this is used to be root that didn't make it, or has just been uprooted a little bit. Okay, so I just wanna give this thing some wild and crazy bends. I saw some really cool trees when I was on the road trip that just had really tight and gnarly twists and turns. I think you have to kind of create that. It's not going to happen naturally in our backyard like it would out in nature when people are collecting Yamadoris. I got this branch in here. It's big enough where I'll leave because I don't know what's going to happen with my twisting. So see, if I put wire on here and twist it all up, this could become an upward facing branch instead of in the inside of a curve right now. But we don't know. So I need some strength on this guy. I don't know if I have big enough copper wire. So we're gonna go ahead and use the aluminum wire here and get that from down there, up through there, and we're gonna wrap this around. Now before I do use this thicker aluminum, let me double check my supply of copper. What do we have for copper today? I do have a little bit of a stash from my Peter T workshop days, but I obviously don't keep it very clean. But we do have some thick enough copper wire. Copper versus aluminum. Aluminum is much cheaper. The copper's harder to use. Until you wire a lot more and get practice with it, it is pretty hard to use. The aluminum can be bent and unbent, and usually when you bend copper, it is in that position. And copper is often used on conifer trees. We can leave wire on conifer trees a lot longer, and we also don't tend to worry about the scar marks of the wire on the branches of many conifers because they kind of grow up and get gnarly, and the wounds don't seem to be as bad, and they actually add character to your tree. With your deciduous trees, often it's best to use that aluminum, then you can take it off a lot easier. Aluminum's also easier to unwind because it's going to unwind easy versus copper. Once it takes its shape when you bend it, it's going to hold that shape, and it's harder to unbend. So we're going to stick it into the soil and go around this tree as many times as we can down on the bottom part of this tree so we can get this started. So I'm going to work on that for a little bit here for y'all. One of the mistakes many people make when they first wire with copper, or any wire really, is trying to be so close to the tree. Most of your leverage comes from way out on the back end of the copper. If you're getting real close to your tree and making all these bends, and even I'm doing it. And I do it often, especially with thicker wire. You got to keep it as straight as possible and just trust the process. If you can, keep that wire as straight as possible and really twist it and put those bends on the wire from way out on the wire. You have to do a lot of pre-cleaning on juniper. So you're not laying down this wire all over the new foliage or young foliage. You're going to clean up some of the branch line. So when you have that copper wiring and it's long out here, we want to wire it real close to the trunk, like my finger here. You want to hold it way out here and kind of crank it around and crank it around. I mean, you have to do it with some confidence, but yeah, you have to be careful with the tree. It is a tricky endeavor for sure. Pretty decent wire job. We want to keep it as neat as possible always, even though I'm not going to show this tree anytime soon. We want to try to keep it as neat as possible. And we're always going to try to wire the base of the tree first. The real main trunk of any tree, if we can bend it, let's bend it first. And then we work out to the primary, secondary, and we very rarely wire the tertiary level. We're going to cut that off probably even today, but we want this to stop there, and we might even cut it back further. But the tertiary is going to be gone anyway, so wiring it oftentimes is a waste of time. And again, with copper wire being so expensive, we probably don't want to do that. So I'm literally going to try to bend this right over here right away and go a little bit back this way with the wire. I don't know if that's really going to do a whole lot. There. So I gave it a little bit more, really hard to tell, but a little bit more movement right there to make this curve a little bit more pronounced. Right in there, super curvy. And I'm going to try to bring it back here towards me without cracking this one a ton, right? There we go. We go slow with this copper wire and slow with the tree, we're going to be in good shape. If we go fast, that's when we can break these. So I just changed the whole look of the tree already. It was already going this way, and now I have it going towards the camera. And so if we look real in tight here, look at that curve right there. Really nice and wonky and curvy. And I don't know what we're going to keep yet. I don't know which branch is going to stay on. Now there is one way inside right here, on the inside of this curve, way in here, right in here. So we take that one out. Inside of a curve, that's just not going to look natural in any way, shape, or form, so that one's gone. And as a matter of fact, this branch down here now, this low on the tree, let's take that one out. And this is our first main thrust of branches up here with all this curvature that we're doing here. Okay, so now I'm going to continue to twist this thing and twist this thing. And again, junipers have a lot of twisty motion or flexibility in their branches to allow for twisty motion. I've twisted this thing like a corkscrew already now, and it still hasn't shown me any signs of cracking per se. Not that I'm hearing anyway. And so I've kind of got this as a corkscrew right now. And though that might be obnoxious now, I think in many, many years, as it thickens up and grows and gets some girth to it, they might even touch and get close together, and it'll be just really cool. We can get a live vein in there and a dead vein. There, and now I have just this really kind of gnarly, twisty tree here, which kind of thickened it back up. It almost looks thicker. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off a couple of these downward facing limbs over here on a branch that might come off completely. As a matter of fact, it's on the inside of a curve. I'm taking that off. And then look at this guy right here. With all our twisting, this is going down to the ground. We don't want that either. So it's hard to cut branches. We teach people in workshops all the time that anything that's straight up or straight down or crossing a branch, you got to twist it first and see that design and see where everything's going to stay before you can start to clean this out and put it on its next journey. And so now this has a really funky twist going to it. And now I still want to bring it back down this way more from this main trunk here if I can. Oh, there we go. And it's making some of these branches touch. I love that. It's really touching close here. getting that twisty right in there. And I will cut off this leader right there. We don't need that. And this guy right here, we're going to shorten up. And this guy right here, we're going to shorten up because we're going to see where this thing grows this year. So now I have this apical tree in a way from the twisting that I've done and repositioned it and got all kinds of stuff curly-cued in there. And we're going to see where these branches are going to grow. And then I can come in here and I can get rid of some of these branches in here, though, that are really tiny and facing downwards. Again, I can cut some of those off. So there's so much foliage, you can't really see the twisty. But I have 2 full corkscrews in here that it's just really kind of gnarly, right? And now as that thickens and gets really big and thick down in there, hopefully they'll get closer and closer together and touch someday, and then I'll start carving some dead wood out of that. But I think we'll just leave that here. I haven't touched this tree since the road trip last year, and now I've got this fun movement on this tree. Here's another branch that's growing back towards this other part of the tree, so let's do that and cut that off. And now we have our branch over here as a primary branch and all this tree over here. We're going to see what's going to happen with this year. Got a downward facing branch, inward facing growth, and we're just going to leave this to see what happens this year with this main first primary branch. And the tree is just going this way a ton. Let's see if there's any other movement I can make to maybe enhance this for the future. Because it is really fun and gnarly, but is that the direction I want it to be over there, or do I want it to come this way more? Another weird branch right here. There we go. We can open it up to see this branch right here. And again, once you move this with copper, you're not moving it back the other direction very easily. That'll also be very hard to take off, so that's when you need a really good pair of wire cutters. This has power at the tip as well as down there. And then my other nicer rounded, there you go. This wire cutter has the really nice tapered end here, so you can get really in there and cut all that wire off. So it looks a little convoluted in here and a lot of stuff going on. So I'll go ahead and get rid of a couple of branches in here so we can kind of see what's going on. This inside stuff is just going to die away right in here. All that, there's so much going on in there. We don't know what's going to stay or what's going to go long term. But we will give it more light, so when it does start to grow this year, that's just going to give more energy to the other parts of the foliage and not waste energy on this internal stuff, which we know is just, again, inside of curves, growing kind of inside this new corkscrew tree that I have. There we go, getting rid of a big one right there. Now you can see the corkscrew. There we go. And it's funky. This could be a really nice branch right here. We've got a couple more internal ones in here that are just kind of oddly placed. Light's not going to hit them. Now facing downward. So there we have our first tree, just wired up like crazy. We're just going to let this grow all this season now. Again, just to totally grow and thicken up here. Give it lots of fertilizer this spring and let this one go crazy. And we'll see if these curves can make a very interesting tree in the future. We may cut some of these swirls on top off. We may just go with this branch right here, coming up off of the big curve. This may stay or go. We won't know until we get more growth. So there's tree number one, kind of wired up in a really crazy way. I don't think I can go back this way anymore because we don't have a big anchor right here. No, I don't have a good enough anchor to do anything down there, so that's gonna have to wait. Tree number one, all wired up for you. Tree number two here is a Mugo pine, Mugo pine. This is one of the trees that I acquired from Candace, and so we are gonna take a little wire to this guy. But before we do, I got a special package in the mail the other day from Dave. Yeah, we've got the Ginkgofest 2025. What is that all about? Well, let's check this video out real quick. Got a package in the mail today from our friend from Dreaming of Bonsai, Mr. David Harding. And thanks, David, for sending me the Ginkgo, right? I think it's a Ginkgo. So it is Ginkgofest 2025, and David from Dreaming of Bonsai is throwing out this challenge to everybody, and it's more like an experiment, and I love this. I talk about it over and over again about how amazing this community is and it's so fun. And I also talk a lot about how bonsai, they have legacy. They have a legacy of some sort. They have a story. And David is creating a story right here with these trees. And so I know Steve over at Steve's Backyard Bonsai recently got his package in the mail. And so we are going to see what's going to happen with all of these boxed trees. And they are Ginkgos. Yeah, I don't have to tell you that again. Surprise, surprise. So Dave apparently gotten a whole bunch of seeds to germinate, and he's had them in a pot for a year or two. I'd have to double check with him on how old these are. Maybe he'll explain that maybe in a little bit of a note or something on the inside. So this is an unboxing. Always fun to show unboxings on videos, right everybody? Super exciting for those who get them. Packaged really well with all the extra bags he said that he had. That's gonna be the tree, I'm sure. Ooh, look at that, an extra baggie of stuff and a handwritten note. You know, how often do we get a handwritten note anymore in society? Everything is digital, digital, digital. Hey Dave, one Dave to another. I'm so happy that you are part of this new project. I'm excited to see what you and everyone else will do with the seedlings. I know they are in good hands with you all. Best, Dave. Oh, and P.S. I added some ginkgo seeds from another ginkgo tree in my area if you wanted to try to grow a few more seedlings as well. So I will do that because I'm a guy who likes forests and I just want a whole bunch of forests in my collection. I think ginkgo trees can be so oddly shaped sometimes, and the trunks sometimes that I've seen have a hard time of having a real nice, pretty nice flare, that nibari with good taper. Ginkgos don't ever seem to look quite like that, but we see them in clumps and some forests, and then they're phenomenal because we don't pay attention to some of those parts of the tree as much. And so I would love to grow some more ginkgo trees and get a forest eventually. And what I love about this project is that it's going to be over the next several years. We will all be able to provide updates over the next several years, and then Dave will report on that and give us some updates. So what an undertaking. Easy in the front because he just ships all the trees off, but then eventually he's going to have to get all our results and share them with folks. My dad was a mailman for 33 years, and as much grief, ridicule, teasing, bad-mouthing of the U.S. Postal Service sometimes. My dad was one of those employees, and I got my work ethic from my father and my mother, but most certainly from my father. My father is a man who worked hard all his life, and he was a rule follower who worked really hard and followed all the guidelines. So if he was delivering your mail for 33 years in St. Paul, Minnesota, you got some of the best service possible. Now, of course, there's always things that might have happened along the way that wasn't under his control, but yeah, he was one of the good ones for sure. There we have a Ginkgo biloba yearling. And we have a nice new bud up on the top. We have a couple of possible side buds down here. There's a couple of possible buds down here. And then we have the roots that I can already see just a little bit down there in the soil. There is the Ginkgo biloba. So I've got some seeds that I get to sow. Got a lovely note from Dave. We'll put that in a special spot, and then we have to do something with this tree. Now, my trees are not ready to wake up right now. These are not like waking up at the moment here. We're not getting a bud to push. So for right now, I'm gonna go ahead and put this into my garage cold frame real close by. We'll get that in a nice place that stays 40 degrees almost on a consistent 24-hour, 7 days a week. As long as I have my cold frame up and running. So we'll put that in there, and then he's gonna leave the rest up to us. And what'll be fun to learn, and I'll give Dave all the specs, is what I'm using for soil based on what he's using for soil and what Steve from Steve's Backyard is using. And so these trees are being sent all over the U.S. To about 15 locations, I believe, and we'll have some comparing and contrasting to do. What a fantastic thing. And I bet you any money that we're gonna have a little bit of an update, Dave, I hope. Dave and I are going to collaborate, and we're going to have an update and some early preliminary results, or at least what's happening with the Ginkgofest 2025 on the Bonsai Expo that I'm producing here in July of 2025. So July 26th, if you haven't heard about it already, mark it on your calendar. And on that day, from about 9 a.m. my time, I think that's going to ebb and flow a little bit, but 9 a.m. Central United States time until about 3 p.m., about a 6-hour window, we're going to be just talking bonsai and having an online live stream Bonsai Expo. And part of that now is going to be an update and what people are doing with the Ginkgofest 2025. So thanks, Dave. What a great project. I'm super excited about this. So proud to be a part of this. I'm so glad that you threw this offer out here, and I gladly accepted this, and we'll have fun with this. And hopefully a forest one day. Now it's time to wire up here the Mugo pine. It's got some fun movement, maybe some sacrificial branching going on up here. We got a couple big branches down below. Some fun texture to the trunk down here. I got a big section right here that has this growth right here, but I don't know if I want to keep that section. I think I want to keep, if you look at it from this side, I want to keep these little branches right here and here and cut this big one back so we have our taper. And so I'll do that right now. I'll just cut there and leave some dieback stuff. So there you go. Now you have these branches. We go from thick trunk to primary, thinner, and then thinnest up here. And hopefully that's going to grow out this year to be much nicer looking. And then when this dries up a little bit, we're gonna fix this wound back here and trim that up a little bit tighter. I'm gonna do a little bit of it right now. So again, this branch comes up to here and then there. We're not gonna wire that branch. I don't think we can. It's actually a little thick. We got a little reverse taper there. So I'm tempted to cut more off now because these are almost like a bar branch. So I have to decide maybe which branch I want, which maybe is the lower branch, but maybe it's the higher branch. But I'm gonna see how this thing flushes out this spring and summer. Before I make some of those decisions. But I'm going to have to make that decision by this year for sure, because this will be a bulgy spot right here. Because we do go from 1 to 2 here, but this growth may thicken this up too much. And in the future, maybe this branch even comes completely off. I don't know, because this one has a fun branch. It's kind of nice and got a nice little curve right here. We've got some buds way back here, a couple of buds and a buds up here, so this could be fun too. I want to see what this tree is going to maybe do. And we have a couple competing branches right now. So if that's kind of the front, we got this main branch right here and this one's in the back, that's okay. And when you look at the tree this way, this kind of comes out in front of us and it blocks this whole branch back here. If I make this the front of the tree, we've got a tree that grows in the back now, and this is kind of your front tree, and we can kind of maybe add a couple of swerves there. But then the tree goes away from us, so we like this angle better. But then this angle, this is just not looking good over here. So maybe we keep this back here. And this is super tall. Can we bring this down in any way with this wire today? But then that looks too much like a big old C in here. That's kind of bizarre. If we can kind of twist this around like this, can we do that? So I'll want to wire this whole tree before we go ahead and twist it up and cut anything off, because maybe this top part is sacrificial. Maybe I don't even want that part of the tree right now. And don't forget to move your trees up and down like this. Do we plant it more at an angle next time? What was the angle that Candace was thinking? Do I keep this way? I just don't like how thick this bottom branch is right now with these two. Yeah, that's just a big sore right there, big eyesore. I think I am gonna whittle away. We are in winter. We're not going to get a lot of bleeding of this tree. And it just looks too much like an eyesore for me to keep. See how that cleans it up just a little bit? And I can put some cut paste on there, but that's going to make for a much smaller or a much better taper job here from thick to thin from what we had. That was just getting a little too thick. And I don't know if I want the branch to go up, so this up one might come down in the future, or I don't know if I want it to go this far down either. Maybe that's too far down. Oh, did I cut that one too far right there? I got that one a little close. I'm almost tempted to not even keep either of those two. But again, I don't know that I can really bend this one very much. That would require a much bigger wire than I have. So I think I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna go that direction. Now, I I don't know if this is thick enough. I might need 2 of this wire for this thick of a branch, or maybe even 2 of the aluminum, but the copper is going to be better. So let's try with copper first. And we want something that's going to go up to the top of the tree, all the way from the bottom of the tree, and room to spare. So again, we're going to stick this into the ground, into the pot right now. So through all the root system down to the bottom of that pot. We're going to come and wrap around the trunk of this tree. And again, as far this way as I can, not getting real close to the tree. I'm going to come under these branches here, and we're going to move this main trunk line. We've completed 1 wire on the Mugo, and we're going to put the other one on right next to it and snug it right next to it so we can make sure that we have enough support to get this thing bent up here. And so for this, we're going to trace our outline of the other wiring. I want these close together with as little gap as possible between them, because they're going to work in tandem. Is the tippy, or almost the top, and look at that, I almost have the absolute perfect amount of copper wire to wrap around there, right underneath there. A little loosey-goosey at the bottom. That's not what we're bending down there, so I don't care about that. And now we have to see how we're going to bend this tree. So I'm actually going to twist it and bend it this way first. Okay. So you see how much I already bent that tree right there? But we also have a bend right here we can possibly get. So I want to see if I can, and again, this is a pine tree, so this is going to be able to be bent pretty easily compared to many other species. The Mugo pine, like our Juniper we just did, super nice and bendy. So that has quite a drastic little move we just created in there. I just created a really funky cascade there. But then, of course, we're going to come back up. And that's going to clash with this guy back here. So the question is, can I twist this to bring this branch up a little bit more? Now I see a hairline crack right here. There's a hairline crack right there at the wire, so I need to stop right there on that one. Again, time of year, I want this to start healing up, but first it's going to heal up in the passive solar green frame, so I got to wait for that to happen. The warm up in the next couple of weeks. So here was that challenging one that we cut and whittled away at the reverse taper at, and who knows if these are both going to survive. I got a little close on this guy, so we'll see. But that one should survive. And then we got this though. But if I turn this way, if I turn this way, and we kind of got this guy going over this way, kind of fun. This one's in the back now. We could try to encourage something to grow up a little bit more to make more of that conical shape here. I'm missing some stuff right up here. But that back branch now provides more of a back 3D dimensional shape back here. So we got this nice texture of branches growing this way. I could even wire it so you can see it perfectly, leaving this one alone. So that was a pretty drastic bend. This one right here is going to have to grow up this way. We maybe put some wire in another year or two to make this grow back up here for an apex. I just can't do that now. Well, I could a little bit. It's a skinny little branch. I might be able to do that just like that. So there we go. Yeah, we could put a little wire on that and even move this one a little bit. And we got this real thick tip out here that could be sacrificial to grow all that up. So let's do that, and let's go ahead and shorten this guy up back here. There's great buds in the back. We're going to shorten it up to here and let it push out more that way towards you, the camera there. So I took this side out just a little bit, so it's going to be more focused in the back. And then over here, we're going to move this with some wire, and this one is kind of, I think we'll leave that alone for now and see what the summer brings. We got a straight down branch right here. So let's get another piece of smaller aluminum on that last little piece right there. So whenever we're wiring branches in bonsai, we like to wire 2 at a time. So I can put a little wire on both of these just to give them a little bit of a nudge, and so I will do that. So it's got to go around the trunk one time or so for some, what we're going to call an anchor. And so we're going to go ahead and figure out how this will be anchored around. It will cross a wire, unfortunately, but I don't know if we'll see that from the front. And again, we don't need a ton of wire here. So I'm just trying to go around that one branch right there, really nice and tight. And there's a bud right there that I want to be very careful not to get. Pluck away a couple of these pine needles. And again, we just want to be able to tilt this up just ever so slightly. Okay, so here's my wire sticking up right here. And then this one's going to come underneath. And this is where the crossing is going to happen. But again, we're not going to see that. And we're going to go ahead and come in close here and get this wrapped around at least once here. Around all these bigger needles. If I can pluck it in there a little bit. If you remember, it was straight up and down for the most part, and I put a couple pieces of copper wire on this guy now, and look at all the movement we put in that. So we're looking at this tree now this way a tad next time, and I put a second wire up here after the structural wire on the main tree, got some really fun movement. You can even see from this side through all the foliage how fun the curve is now. And so just some movement. This can become the apex of this tree. This we can slow down if this, to get this to get, but this is the apex now, and it's going to get all the light and do just fine. So we have a little bit of our triangle shape kind of to this tree. Another fun tree working here in the plant room with a little bit of wire. But now these two have to go out on the bench. We got some decent looking curves and bends and nooks and crannies. Let's see what Mother Nature does now in the spring and summer months. So let's put them back in the PSGF. Thanks again to Dave. Hey, take care of you. Take care of your bonsai. And we're going to see you on possibly a heat wave on another video next, right? All right. Talk to you soon, everybody. Welcome to Bonsai Acres.